That night, my first kiss, the dance, the unexpected connection, stayed with me long after. But it wasn't just about that moment.
In part 1, I shared my unbelievable first kiss experience with a girl I had assumed would be completely out of my reach as an autistic teenager. Of course, I didn't know I was autistic, but the way I felt about myself was really low. So watch that video first, if you didn't see it already. Unexpectedly, it was our deeply intimate dance that left me with a real life-changing experience. But it didn't explain everything. If anything, it just cracked the surface. What followed was a longer journey of trying to understand why that moment felt so different from the rest of my life. Especially with women, talking with them. Didn't work. And yet that worked.
After a couple of very brief relationship attempts with other girls, most of whom I met at the local club, the painful truth came to me that my situation was practically the total opposite of what I had assumed all through high school. I was not unattractive at all, and my weirdness didn't really matter. This was never the problem. Weirdness just shapes your character and makes you more interesting, as long as you embrace it yourself. Chemistry and physical connection turned out to be the least of my challenges. My real challenge was that I couldn't be present with someone else when I wasn't present with myself. And tension made that nearly impossible. My autism causes me to get tense very easily, and especially during verbal communication with someone I don't know very well yet. The stark contrast between being appreciated physically but not personally, as it repeated in all of my early romantic experiences, eventually led me to get an official diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder at the age of 24. Eventually, I did have a long-term relationship. After I explained my autism to her, she recognized herself in the description and got her own diagnosis. I honestly didn't see that one coming. Though it wasn't a complete surprise either, as it explained why we had so much in common and why I felt safe being myself with her. At least one important question remains though. What made it possible for me to have had such amazing experiences dancing with women at clubs? After that first experience, I danced 2 more times like that at different clubs. And every single time it was a beautiful, intimate, sensual, creative experience of oneness, unhindered by any sense of stress, panic or self-consciousness. Why was my autism not screwing me up in such an intense and emotional public scenario? There are actually several parts that I believe contributed to this. Firstly, the loud music blocked out all other sounds, and I liked it, leaving no unpleasant auditory distractions. And I also don't remember other people bumping into us, like you normally get on a crowded dance floor. So I guess the people around us must have taken extra care. Or maybe we just scared them away. I don't know, because I didn't want to get distracted by looking at anyone else other than my partner. Secondly, while eye contact can be distracting for me in a normal social interaction, being this close to each other meant that I didn't actually have to look her in the eyes at all, unless I wanted to. And that she wasn't watching me either. In fact, most of the time we just had our eyes closed. Thirdly, we didn't need to speak at all. The communication was purely tactile. While the visual part of body language can be hard and stressful for me to interpret or produce, the body language in this tactile form of dancing was completely transparent to me. And last but not least, the body contact was helping me to regulate my feelings. Of course, I felt uplifted because of being desired and validated as a man. I know this may sound superficial, and in a way it was, but I was still a teenager, and for me, being desired by someone I found attractive felt deeply affirming, even healing. However, one of the weird things with autism is that positive emotions can be as overwhelming as negative ones. A very strong feeling of elation can actually cause me to tense up as well. I may even start to shiver or feel sick in my stomach. I believe that my adverse reaction to strong emotions was prevented through a therapeutic effect that is called deep pressure, which increases relaxing hormones like oxytocin and dopamine and reduces stress hormones. When I'm in full body contact with someone I feel attracted to, it clearly has a strong calming effect on me. So while dancing that closely with a complete stranger might seem intimidating or even scary, for me it actually felt far safer and more natural than talking to them. That initial nervousness I felt the first time never returned, because after that I had a much better sense of where the boundaries were and what to expect. In other words, the situation was accommodating to my autism. And I strongly believe that when an autistic person is within a sufficiently accommodating environment, they can be as social as any other person. Not only was my autism not getting in the way of this social interaction, it might have added to the experience. The hyperfocus, the heightened sensitivity, the way I could feel my partner in every detail, the intensity of free-flowing emotion. I don't think that the experience would have been as profound as it was to me if I wouldn't have been autistic. I've had to overcome many stressful challenges and internal resistance in order to get myself into the situation of dancing closely with someone I felt attracted to. While autism made many aspects of this more challenging, it also made me determined to follow this path in the first place, since talking with strangers clearly just isn't my thing. Once I got there, the tension dropped away. I had the feeling that I totally belonged together with that person, at that time and place. It was like coming home. While everything about it was strange and new to my mind, it was deeply familiar to my heart. What began as a painful misunderstanding of who I was, with words always getting in the way of connection, had suddenly reached a pivotal point by stumbling upon an unexpected way I could deeply connect with a woman. Not through words, but through touch and movement. It turns out that this kind of connection might be more relatable than we often assume. In many ways, it's exactly what Argentine tango was designed for, which is much more autism-friendly than a loud, overstimulating club. But tango also takes more practice, especially to reach the level of improvisation where emotional connection becomes possible. I took classes for years and never quite got there. Now don't get me wrong, I enjoyed tango a lot and I plan to pick it up again, but it just never got me back to the place I had been with club dancing yet. Only once, while practicing a quick sequence with an instructor, I briefly felt that distinctive sensation again, our bodies reaching out to each other through this different dimension. It lasted maybe half a second, and then it was gone again. By contrast, close dancing in a club clicked within minutes, and that feeling lasted for hours. No steps to learn, no role to lead, just shared movement. Maybe I should get myself some earplugs and start clubbing again, or try kizomba, which is supposed to be easier than tango. Wouldn't I have preferred my first experiences with intimacy to be about more than just a physical connection? Of course I would. I want to be loved for all that I am, not just for my physical presence. Don't we all? I long to share my life with someone I love. But at that time, that simply wasn't one of my options. I didn't know myself well enough to truly share who I was with someone else, or to truly get to know them in return. So it was either this or nothing, and I'm grateful I had this experience. Furthermore, it seems to me that physical connection as a medium of communication can be so much more than just pleasing each other. Some emotions can be sensed through the body's physical expression, even more clearly and reliably than through words. This may allow for a deeper level of connection. Knowing a lot about someone doesn't necessarily help with connecting with them in the moment. Preconceptions, even when correct in the past, can actually get in the way of being present to what someone is experiencing in the moment, which is always new. That said, even if I could, I don't think it would be good for my mental health to jump from person to person, moving from one fleeting intimate experience to the next. I believe that constantly taking in emotional impressions from different people would quickly make me feel disconnected from myself. There's a reason autistic people often withdraw from social interaction. I think it's largely because they need more space to reconnect with themselves. Non-autistic people need that too sometimes, but it seems to me that non-autistics are much better at ignoring their need for self-connection. If the goal is to quickly understand how I connect with someone I feel chemistry with, and to find out whether we're a good match for a relationship by getting to know them over time as well, then I don't think it's necessarily unhealthy to begin with physical intimacy on the first day of meeting someone. Instead of easing into a relationship before exploring physical connection, this approach simply takes a different route. As long as that intimacy is paired with trust and emotional self-connection, both paths can lead to the same destination. People who meet each other at clubs do sometimes end up getting married and building a happy life together, like my friends did. I'm happy I could accompany them as they found their true love. However, emotional self-connection isn't possible when we're overwhelmed, and I believe this holds true for everyone. One of the challenges of autism is that it often causes a person to become overwhelmed more easily and more frequently than most. Because of this, it can take much longer for an autistic individual to feel safe and calm enough with someone else to truly be intimate. If there are any rules to love and intimacy, I'd say two of the most important are: first, stay true to what feels right for you, and second, keep checking in with the other person. Just because something feels right to you doesn't mean it feels right for them, and they might not feel comfortable saying so. What I did, kissing her right after we exchanged names, isn't something you typically do. It was bold and completely out of character for me. But in that moment, on the dance floor, her eyes told me it was okay, and I chose to trust that. I also knew that in that kind of environment, spontaneous kisses weren't exactly unheard of. And honestly, she looked so kissable to me that something inside just said, why not now? So I just went for it. What I felt that night, the warmth, the connection, the shared emotion, was my first true language of love. One of the few ways I can be with someone and feel entirely myself. Not analyzing, not performing, just present. That night taught me something important. Connection doesn't always begin with words. Sometimes it begins with touch and movement. It all started with one kiss, one dance. And while our words were few, the silent dialogue we shared remains one of the deepest conversations I've ever had with someone else.
Hope you appreciated me sharing this very personal story, and I'm wondering what it stirred up in you, if anything. Share it below if you want to. Did you have a similar experience with close dance, in the club or somewhere else? Of course, keep the comments safe and decent, please. Don't share things that you feel maybe you shouldn't be sharing, right? But if there's something you want to share, I would be very curious to hear. I know this was a bit deep and raw, but if you liked it, do the YouTube thing, like, subscribe, and stay around for other content on autism. Also, not just autism, but of course I try to learn how to connect with words as well, not just with dance. I can't dance all the time, like only a few times. But I need to talk a lot. I mean, that's the main medium of communication, right? So I try to learn how to use words as well. A couple of methods I found that were very useful. I'll share also videos about that. And also conflict, dealing with conflict. Ooh.
Postscript about sexual consent. There was no sex in this story, and if that's what you were hoping for, sorry to disappoint. But since the story is about intimacy with someone I didn't know well yet, I feel like I should say a few words about sex and consent. Here's my take, and I don't mean to sound patronizing. First, don't rush it. If you're like me and struggle with verbal communication, I strongly recommend keeping things strictly non-sexual until further notice. Understand desire isn't the same for everyone. I consider myself pretty average in that way. When I fall for someone, I'm ready. That's just how my body works, and I'm not ashamed of that. But that doesn't mean I mind waiting. If I don't enjoy just being with someone without sex, then honestly we probably shouldn't be together in the first place. Second, emotional safety comes first. From what I understand, and I'm no expert, some people, possibly more commonly in women, can feel love or infatuation without sexual desire right away. They often need to feel emotionally safe before arousal even becomes possible. That may be hard to grasp if you're wired like me, and I don't mean autistic, but a little empathy can go a long way. If someone enjoys your body while it actually hurts you, that's a pretty awful experience. The same holds for others. No matter how good you think you are in bed, if the other person doesn't really want it, it hurts. Even if there's no physical pain, it can leave a mark emotionally. Guys, don't stress about missing the moment. Once you're at the kissing and cuddling stage, trust me, if a woman wants more, she'll let you know, often very clearly. She may not take the first step, but she'll usually take the next one. So don't assume silence means yes. If she's not making it obvious, just assume she's not ready. And if you're still unsure, embrace the awkwardness and ask. And finally, don't just check in with them, check in with yourself. Make sure you actually want it too. Know that it's okay to change your mind at any time and say, I'm sorry, I just realized that I don't want this right now. If there's any sense of mutuality, then they would only want it if you also enjoy it. So it should be in their own interest to stop as well. And if there's no mutuality, then that's an even bigger reason to stop. Wait for as long as it takes for both to enjoy it, even if that means it never happens at all. Seriously though, why not just dance?